whenever you composite two images together, it's a good idea to really look at the images and the quality of those images, not just the resolution, but things like the lighting and how things kind of pan out. Now we're lucky here. Well, I've searched these out beforehand, right? You'll notice that the lighting in this image is from the right side, right? Kind of a top right lighting. And luckily enough, our penguins that we found are also a top lighting. Um, if I could remember in transforming, right, I can always flip things. Uh, so let's say I wanted to change these images and I wanted to flip these. Well, the image starts looking weird because the lighting's from the different way, right? So we want to kind of make sure we're trying to stay with the lighting. Another thing is this image kind of has less contrast. This is a more contrasty image behind, and this image, the penguins are a little less contrasty. They're a little, maybe even just, the lighting's just very weird in this. So we can do things like adjustments, and we can do all adjustments on any kind of image. But for our purposes as compositing, we're going to think about putting these things together. So we can go to adjustments, and let's look at something like, let's go to levels. So levels determines kind of how the various values fall. So if I grab this right here, notice how I'm moving the black levels in a different way. Over here I'm moving the highlights. And generally we're not going to move those too much. I think what we're going to do is move the center one, right? So this is kind of this is the midtones. So if you see here, I'm go ahead and taking down the midtones a little bit because I feel like this image might be just a slight overexposed. But right, I'm just trying to start to make it the lighting look a little closer to the other image I'm compositing. Another thing I noticed in this image, and may not notice this, right? It just depends on kind of how much you work with these kind of things. Is that if you notice there was all this blue background, and if we really zoom in on the skin, the black fur, I can actually see kind of a tint to it, right? Especially in the shadows, these blues. So another image adjustment we can do is say something like color balance, right? And that's where I can start to play around and fix maybe any tint that may be coming there. And actually, it's not really that egregious. I think I might have worked on this image before. But these shadows especially, I think, have them. So I can even just apply it to shadows and try futzing with it a little bit. That's one way to fix a color cast. In the case of a color where you don't have that color anywhere else, we could do something like image adjustments, hue saturation, and I can actually just pick the blues and say, let me take those blues down. And I think that's probably the best. If you notice, look how the difference is. You can't really tell here if you're not really watching, but as soon as I put that contrast down, you'll see a change. Maybe in the video you don't see it so well. But I've taken away the blues because there's no other blues in there that I really have to worry about. So I'm going to leave it at that. Right, and so again, it really just comes down to looking at these hue adjustments. In our class, we're not going to learn all of these things. Just know that though, any of these things here you could potentially change, but the ones that are going to be better for you, brightness contrast is pretty good, right? We can change, add a little contrast here. See, and now we're starting to match this, right? Brightness would brighten it up, down, right? So maybe if you didn't want to use the level sliders the way I just did, but I think the contrast goes up, and now we're starting to make our image look like it was actually taken in this same lighting scene, right? This is one of the keys of compositing, this kind of compositing. If we're doing more of an illustrative compositing like you may choose to do for Studio 2, you don't have to futz with this stuff as much. But if we're trying to make something look realistic and composite it in, this is how we would do it.